Well, there are a couple of strategies that we can adopt, and we'll look at both of those. And the first one is if we want to preserve the original data but also display the amended data, and that way we can actually compare the two versions and see what's changed. And we'll look at that method first. And the second method would be to replace the original data completely. So if we look at the layer list that we have here, so F2 brings up the layer list, and what we'll do is we'll just rename that layer phase 5, and we'll just say it's version 1. Click on OK, and then we'll create a new layer, and we'll just call this phase 5 version 2. Okay, obviously use names that are sensible to your own particular requirements. And the new layer is automatically made the current layer, so we will now zoom out to our extents, see what we're doing, and we will open up our version 2 drawing, which is in a separate folder here, and version 2 is here. Yes, it's the alternate version there, just looking in to check. So we can zoom to our extents and we can take our photo again. So if we look at our camera icon, snap on a registration point, return to our master plan and drop that into position. And we'll zoom to the area that we're interested in. And the first thing we need to do is to make sure that we make the original version invisible. So now we can see the new version. And if we want to swap back to that version, we just make it hittable or editable again. We can see the differences. If we want to plot the original version, we can just make the new version invisible. So we can incorporate multiple versions within the same file and just manipulate them in this fashion as we need. Our alternative technique, where we actually substitute the later data for the data that's already in the file, is quite simple to achieve. In fact, there are several different ways of achieving it. One will be to overwrite the original file, but that's probably not a good idea. You probably still want to preserve the original drawing file. What we'll do first of all is we'll just remove the new phase that we created, so that we know we're not fooling you with just looking at the data again. And we've now got our version 1 data there. If we look at that photo, which should be editable, we can alter the source file that it's looking at the data from. And if we look here, we've got edit photo path, which is this one here, and all we do is just click anywhere on the drawing that we're interested in, and we've got the choice of looking at a different view within the same file. So if there were multiple versions within a file, we could pick the different version, or in this case we want to look at a different file entirely. So we just browse, go to our version 2 folder, select our version 2 file, click on OK, and the document goes away and updates that with the information from the replacement file. And notice that the settings that we've changed in the way that the layers are displayed are preserved in the photo. I'm sure you'll agree that that's a very powerful tool for managing multiple versions of data from multiple sources. We're just going to conclude with a brief look at some of the 3D features that are useful in the master planning situation, just by looking at some output from a couple of the examples that we've already viewed. Just briefly, if we look at the technical college first of all, where we generated a slightly more complex 3D model based on the chosen version of our or chosen option of the different schemes that were presented. We generated some what we call block models. These are not true photorealistic models. These are just simple block representations, but done with a certain amount of care for detail. And we can also generate from those kind of models 2D data, so we're getting a 3D plan based on the model. very useful in this case because there weren't ever actually any drawings done for this project. It was done entirely in 3D. The master plan itself was created over Ordnance Survey base map with some polygons for the footplates created, but everything else was generated in 3D, so all of the presentation was done by generating 3D views, and including the plans of the site, as you see here. The quality that you can get from these plans is from the 3D model is quite staggering, so it's well worth considering this as an option. And again, this is from the grammar school master plan, where again we were generating 3D from the model. Looking again at some of the other views here, we had multiple versions or multiple options for parts of the scheme, and we just generated versions of the 3D model. So if you look at the area to the left of the old building where the playground space is, you'll see that different schemes start to pop in and out as we look at the different views from that particular sequence of images. Worth mentioning as well that the existing buildings in this model and also the one for the technical college were not generated from drawings, they were generated from photographs. Photographs that were taken and then manipulated in actually in PaintShop Pro. Photoshop would work equally well. And then inserted into a layer in MicroGDS and traced over to create the shapes that were then extruded into 3D. I don't know how well this will work over a webinar, but you can also generate animations based on the 3D data that you create in MicroGDS. It's not an internal function, it does require a free add-on that you can download, and also you need some software to stitch the various frames of the image together. And again, there are free versions, or you can use paid versions of applications like Premiere, which is what was used for this particular example. Again, it just completes the presentation of the master plan to the client and to the public. Well, I've just about used up my hour. Happy to take questions on anything that we've discussed or anything that I've omitted to discuss from this topic, and we look forward to talking to you again when we do the next webinar.